Chapter 6. An Underground Water World. When I opened my eyes, I heard the sound of the sea. The sun was high in the sky, but this was not possible. We were under the ground. My uncle stood over me.
He's okay, Hans.
I saw Hans smile. My head hurt. I touched it, and I felt a bandage on it. I tried to speak, but it was difficult.
Where are we?
Don't speak, Axel. You had a terrible fall. We heard you screaming. We were in a tunnel next to yours. Luckily, the two channels came out here, on this beach.
My uncle sat down next to me and spoke with more excitement in his voice.
Axel, we found an underground sea. There are trees here, and the bones of animals that lived thousands of years ago. When you get better, we are sailing across this sea. Oh, Axel, you can't imagine how happy I am.
I could not move much for 2 days. I heard Hans building a boat for us to sail in, but I could not understand how there was light. The professor explained this to me.
It is a mystery, like so many things. But it is something like electricity coming from the heat of these rocks. We are inside something like a giant cave. The top of it is a few miles high. There are even clouds because of the water.
I looked up and saw the clouds. I could not see the top of this cave, but it was difficult to believe that all of this was under the earth. When I felt strong again, I took a walk along the beach. There were shells there from a time before man walked on the earth. I saw the bones of something which looked like a huge elephant. I thought, can things live under the earth? Are there any animals alive down here? The boat was ready, and we were ready to sail. We left the beach, and a strong wind pushed us quickly out to sea. After a few hours on this strange sea, Hans tied the pickaxe to a rope and threw it into the water. The professor wanted to know how deep the sea was. It never touched the bottom. When Hans pulled it back into the boat, its metal head looked different. There were large marks on it. What's that? Hans looked at it closely.
Teeth!
Teeth? Could something so big live in these waters? The professor looked at his compass.
We are traveling south. If I am right, we left Iceland when we went under the volcano. We traveled under the Atlantic Ocean, and now we are under Scotland.
That's fantastic!
But we're still not going down. I want to go further down.
Suddenly, there were huge waves rocking the boat. What's happening? Hans pointed to something dark about a mile away from us. It came closer, and I thought I saw a giant dolphin. I was wrong. It was an alligator. It came closer, and I saw that I was wrong again. It was something with the body of a dolphin and the head of an alligator. It was over 100 feet long. Then I saw a huge snake with a shell on its back like a turtle's. We took the guns in our hands, but the animals did not care about us. They fought each other. It was a horrible fight. We heard the snake hissing and the dolphin screaming. They both dove under the water. Everything was quiet. Then the snake's head came out of the water. It hissed one more time before it died in the water. But where was the monster dolphin? Chapter 7. A Terrible Storm. Now our journey felt even more dangerous. The professor was frightened, but nothing could stop him from going to the center of the earth. Hans continued to sail the boat, but we did not see land. We traveled for hours, but we did not hear or see anything. Then there was a sound like fast-running water. We couldn't see it, but we could hear it. It got louder. Then we saw it.
Look! It's water shooting up into the air!
And is coming from the body of a huge sea creature.
We tried to turn the boat, but the waves pulled us near the creature. For a moment, I thought that this was the end of our journey. The water went up 500 feet high into the air. An animal that could do this could kill us easily. Then we saw that the long black body we thought was an animal was an island. It was like a small volcano, shooting up water instead of lava.
That's where all this water is coming from.
Axel, check the temperature of the water here.
I took a thermometer out of my inside jacket pocket, and I put it in the water for a few seconds.
163 degrees Fahrenheit.
We're close to the center.
We can't go on, Uncle. It's too hot.
We must.
The electric light coming from the rocks over our heads began to make explosions. The clouds were now near the water. Small lines of light that looked like snakes exploded all around us. The waves were bigger now and pushed us away. I was very scared.
What's happening?
The explosions were too loud for us to hear each other.
It's an electrical storm! Hans!
Hans tried to keep the boat from sinking. The wind pushed us through the water like a race car. Suddenly, a large ball of white electric light fell on the boat. None of us could move. It held our feet with its electric power. We shouted to each other, but none of us could hear anything.
Uncle! Axel! Hans! Axel!
The boat moved by itself, and there was nothing we could do. Suddenly, the ball of electricity exploded. We all fell down, and a huge wave threw us into the water.
Axel! Hans!
Hans had the professor in one arm, and me in the other. I don't know how he did it, but he got us to land safely. I began to think that all the energy he saved by not talking made him the strongest man on Earth. The storm stopped, and we saw the boat, still on the water, 100 feet away. Hans swam out to save our food and equipment. The professor and I tried to understand where we were.
I think that sea is 800 miles wide.
That means we went under Europe. The Mediterranean Sea is now over our heads.
Let's wait for Hans to bring back the compass.
When Hans brought back the compass, the professor and I could not believe what we saw. It said we were north and not south. That meant the wind took us back to the place where we started. Chapter 8. A Lost World. We were on the north side of the sea again, but not on the same beach as before. For this reason, we began to look around to see what we could find. The professor didn't want us to stay there for long. He wanted to sail on the sea again.
Professor, it's too dangerous. You saw what happened.
I don't care, Axel. I did not come all this way to turn back now. We've got to see what's on the other side of that sea.
This beach was longer than the other one. Its rocks had more holes in them, and I thought this was because of earthquakes. There were many more bones and old shells on this beach.
Look at all this, Axel. We can read the whole history of the world from these bones.
There were skeletons of animals that are not living today. It was very exciting to see them out in the open and not in a museum.
Axel, look. A human head.
There, with all the other bones, was the head of a man. How did it get here? Did it fall down one of those holes like we did? Was that going to happen to us? The professor was excited.
If other scientists could see me now, this could be the oldest skeleton ever found.
We walked further down and the beach changed. Now there were large trees and small plants around us. The further we went, the more life we found. Suddenly, I saw something move behind the trees. My uncle and I hid. It was a family of mammoths from thousands of years ago.
Axel, can you believe it? There is another world under our Earth.
But are there also people here?
Yes, look!
I couldn't believe it. Walking behind the mammoths was a giant man. He was over 12 feet tall with long hair and a beard. He had a piece of animal skin around his waist.
Should we try to talk to him?
No. He looks dangerous. Hans is not with us, and we don't have our guns. Let's go back to the boat.
We ran away quietly, so the prehistoric man did not see us. When we stopped running, we were back at the beach. I saw an old knife on a rock.
Let's clean this and keep it. It could be useful.
Axel, don't you understand what this is?
Yes, it's a knife.
But it's made of metal. It is only 200 or 300 years old.
Do you mean...
Yes. Arne Saknussemm.
The professor saw a cave nearby. He ran to it.
Axel, it's him!
On the rock, next to the entrance of this cave, there were 2 letters in Old Icelandic. A.S. The professor looked very excited.
This must be the entrance we're looking for.
Chapter 9. The Last Tunnel. Hans brought the boat to the end of the beach where the cave was. We tied it to a rock in the water and took our bags to the cave.
Are we going to use the boat again?
I don't know. Maybe if we come back this way. But who knows where this new tunnel will take us?
We needed the boat sooner than we thought. We walked about 12 feet inside the cave. Then we saw a huge rock blocking the tunnel. We couldn't understand it.
How could Arne Saknussemm get around this rock?
The professor thought for a moment, and then he looked at the rock.
Maybe it fell after his journey, in the last 200 years. Probably after an earthquake, or a terrible storm.
I wish there was another earthquake to move that rock from the entrance of the cave.
Axel! That's it! We can use the gunpowder to move this rock again.
Do you think it will work?
There's only one way to find out.
We still had some extra gunpowder with us for the guns. Hans made a hole in the rock with his pickaxe. Then we put the gunpowder inside. We used the rope to light it, but we made it very long to give us time to move back and hide. The 3 of us got into the boat and moved 50 feet out to sea. We had no idea how big the explosion was going to be. Waiting for it made us very nervous.
Maybe it won't work.
Axel, don't say those things.
We waited. Suddenly, the rocks on the beach opened like 2 curtains. The earth shook, and everything fell into a huge hole. We fell back in the boat, and the final explosion made the sea rise in a huge wave which pushed us back to the beach. We were in the air, on top of the water, and the hole was below us. It looked big enough to take in all the world.
We're going down into the hole!
That's what we want.
Not this way!
We shouted because the noise of falling rocks was all around us, and we couldn't hear each other. The boat moved like a train through the tunnel, then we crashed into a new river of fresh water. The boat went under, and came back up so fast that there was very little water in it. I don't know how we stayed in it. We held onto the sides of the boat with all of our strength.
Professor, where are we?
I don't know. But the water is taking us somewhere. We have no choice but to follow it.
It's getting hot.
The temperature was high. The walls had the red color of lava.
Are we under another volcano?
When I finished my sentence, we heard a loud roar from behind us. Water and air pushed us forward faster. The walls began to shake, and rocks began to fall.
Professor!
Then it was clear. We were inside a volcano, and it was going to explode. I could see the blue sky through the round hole at the top of the volcano. There was one more terrible roar, and we were flying up into the air. Chapter 10. Back Home. The volcano threw us into the sea. Hans saved us again with his amazing strength. But where were we? It looked like the surface of the earth. There were small boats in the water and olive and fruit trees on the land. Behind us was the huge volcano. We saw a little boy. We tried to go near him, but he was afraid of us. After all our underground adventures, we looked horrible. The professor spoke to him in German, French, and English, but he did not understand. Finally, the boy spoke in Italian.
What did he say?
He said we're in Stromboli, Italy.
You mean we went in one volcano in Iceland and came out of another in Italy?
Yes, and that one there is Mount Etna.
And that was how our journey ended. The professor was not happy that he didn't get to the center of the earth, but when we got back to Germany, he felt better. Martha told everyone in Hamburg about our journey, and when we arrived, there was a big celebration for us. Everyone in Hamburg was at the train station when we arrived, but the only person I looked for was my Grauben. And I saw her, like a white light moving past the others until I could hold her.
Oh, Axel, I'm so glad you're back. I thought of you every day, and sometimes I was afraid, but somehow I knew you were all right.
Well, I never felt that I was safe, but I did want to come back to you every minute of every day.
There was a stage set up in the station, and the journalists who were there asked the professor to talk about our journey. Uncle Otto was tired, but he agreed.
My nephew Axel and I are now back from an incredible journey.
We saw things that scientists still do not know about. There is life in the heart of this planet. There is water and beaches and trees. Arne Saknussemm, a famous scientist from the 16th century, was the first to travel under the earth. We are the second. I do not know if others will try this dangerous adventure in the future. If they do, they need someone like our guide Hans with them, or I'm afraid they will not survive. For a moment, I thought I saw a smile on Hans's face as the people clapped and cheered. But, as usual, the quiet Icelander didn't say a word.